everybody, and welcome to another episode of Out of Our League. Today is a special episode. It's our anniversary episode. This episode marks the 1 year anniversary that we've been doing this show. Not exactly year to date, but it's still like something that we wanted to do that was a little bit more special than normal. And to commemorate that, we have our first time returning guest in his anniversary episode on the show, which I think is super awesome. But we'll get to that guy in a minute. First, Caesar, with those dope sunglasses, how are you today?
Exhausted. I just did a 3 a.m. charity stream with Matt Batson and Gina Viteri, and oh my god, I am just so.
Now, I don't understand. They're not on the West Coast,
They're
right?
not on the West Coast. They're not in Europe. What happened was kind of funny. There's this like 48-hour block for community members, and each community member gets 2 hours. And the only slot that was left open was 4 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh my gosh. That's
So-
crazy. I caught a little bit of that. You guys already seemed super tired.
Well, it's because Matt was like editing, even in the middle of the stream, a video. He was editing a video he was going to show. Gino and I, up to the minute, we're setting stuff up for this video to end the stream, and just it worked. And Matt's still editing the video. It's still not finished. It's still just like there's still stuff to edit. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Did you wake up early, Caesar, or did you stay up late?
I did not sleep. I did not
Oh,
sleep.
wow.
That's the move.
So you're just going to
move.
crash after this.
Yeah.
Well, I slept from then to now.
Oh,
Okay.
so you did.
But
okay.
like because it was like what 3 a.m. for me, so I slept at 5 a.m. and then I woke up at noon, so like an hour ago. So I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Al, the Predator Tribesman, how are you today?
Hello. I am recovering from being blue boxed, so I'm good.
Where's
How are
this
you
tweet? When
guys?
did you make this tweet?
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Gage, the man with one job, the ultimate producer, how are you today?
I am fantastic, Phil. Thank you.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. Love your hair. Fucking killing it.
Oh, thank you. It's just
What do you
Yes.
use?
Oh, I
Gage?
found it.
So
For the
good.
people at home, what do you use for that?
I use water and a beanie.
Nice.
So what we're
Al-
saying here is genetics, because I've seen his dad. He's looking pretty good. I'm just saying. McKenna, the second producer, the wonderful Potter Pants 212, Harry Potter extraordinaire. How are you today?
I'm doing extremely well. How are you?
Doing well. I take you weren't up at 4 a.m.
Thought
for a
about it,
stream.
but then I was like,
But she was
"Damn,
there."
I watched the I watched the archive though.
But she was there. She was
Oh.
a part of the video. She
I
said,
was-
"Hold tight, Spider Monkey."
Yes,
Yeah.
it was an experience.
It was a Twilight remake, in case anybody's wondering what.
Yeah, I didn't get my video in time. I'm very sad, but I think that's amazing. You guys all put that together. And the voice in the void, the floating icon, Ben. Please be excited. How are you today?
Whoa! 1 year, baby! Let's go! Woo!
Yes, the energy.
What's up? I just woke up the entire household. Jeez, it's not good. That's not good. I'm good, buddy. How's everyone doing?
I mean, it seems like everyone's doing good besides Caesar. He's really tired over there, but we haven't
I'll make
asked
it through.
the singular person, the one person, the person we're all here for today. Levy, how are you today?
Hi, friends. I am great. I am honored to be back. Congratulations on your anniversary. That's super cool. And I can't believe you guys brought me back again, of all people.
You're
Let
the
this
one that
chaos come back.
Ow, that's a mean joke. No,
Oh, I missed
seriously.
it. I missed it.
He said you're the only one that responded.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, he's not wrong.
I'm also not right either because we didn't ask everybody.
No, I literally. So we asked Gage asked Tim because Tim was literally our first interview.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they're-
of course.
Yeah, they're crazy busy with
Well, Greg's gone
just
right
having
now,
the baby
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
So, like you were literally the next person that I asked for the anniversary episode after we found out
That's
that
so
Tim wasn't going
kind.
to be able to do it because
That's
I
amazing.
thought it would be really great because, we've had a pretty big year. We've had some amazing guests on the show.
Yeah.
Andrea Renee, Timur, Liana Rupert, like so many great.
Speaking
Khalif
of
Adams.
Liana, she says hi in the Discord.
Oh, hey.
Ryan.
Yeah.
She saw you hopped in, Ryan.
Only
She's
to
very
Ryan.
excited.
That's awesome. So yeah, huge year for us. And so when we couldn't get Tim, I thought, who else has had a big year? I mean,
Oh,
Ryan.
man.
Ryan's had a huge year. A year of crazy announcements. I feel like I have seen more My Hero Academia on my timeline in the past like month than I have in my entire time on Twitter, and I'm a pretty big My Hero fan. So like it's just crazy to me, and I absolutely love it. I love everything about my timeline right now, and I know it's partially because we follow each other, so like I'm seeing your retweets and everything, but I still see stuff that's not, even retweeted by you,
Oh wow!
talking about how
I was
great the
gonna say, it's
movie is
probably
and
just
people
my
that saw
fault
it.
exploding everyone's retweets.
No, it's not. And we have actually, I think, some fans that wrote in that I saw the
Oh,
movie,
that's
so
so
I'm
cool.
pretty excited about that.
So as somebody that was a very avid My Hero Academia fan for a long time, but I stopped watching because I couldn't afford the subscription to Funimation anymore.
Well,
Uh,
you can catch up now.
I know I can catch up now, but like, it's very exciting to know that I've talked to an actor that's a part of one of my favorite franchises.
Oh man,
Because
yeah.
it's just like I still haven't seen the movie. I'm gonna see it. I will see it eventually. I'm sorry I haven't. It's just
Don't be
everything
sorry.
everything's crazy right now, but I will see it.
Do
And
not apologize, my gosh.
but because you are somebody that is in the realm of dubbing foreign language stuff to English, I want to know because like this is a big role. This is a big movie. A lot of people are gonna see it. A lot of people are probably not gonna see it with your voice. Does that like affect how you feel about like people saying they might love the character but they don't know your voice?
Oh, not at all. I mean, the character is who everyone loves regardless. Like
Mhm,
I don't own this thing. No actor owns a role, period.
mhm.
Whether it's animated, in person, like on camera, in a video game, it doesn't matter what it is. Um, I actually got to see the sub in theaters because they premiered it at the Grauman Chinese Theater here in LA. And it was amazing. It was so good. I love my favorite part about actually dubbing in particular is the sharing of the roles because
Yeah.
it's such a unique scenario like to immediately have. Like usually what happens, is like someone plays a part in a movie and then like 10 years later it gets remade and then someone else plays that part and suddenly it's like there's like the passing of the baton kind of thing. And like there's this whole uproar of like this person isn't our whatever, and in this instance it's just this mutually shared experience where like two actors get to go on the same journey and it may affect them like differently and the same in really unique ways. Like I've always wanted to be able to talk to or have dinner or something somehow with a lot of the actors I've shared roles with because I think it's so cool.
Mhm.
Um, and especially like being a huge fan of this show also, getting to be a part of it and objectively really loving this movie, whether or not I am a part of it. Like,
Yeah.
I just want people to enjoy it. I just want people to see it the way that they want to experience it because it's really powerful and special. And like, however you like to take in your content, like that's not up to me. My job is already done, and I am grateful to have been given that chance to play. That more than anything, it's like it was a dream.
What
So,
about
oh,
go ahead, Phil.
I was just gonna say real quick, we haven't really delved into the fact that we're talking about. Obviously we're talking about My Hero Academia, but the character that you play,
Yeah.
and let's give people a little update on who you are, just in case they may have not seen the original episode with you in it. Who is Ryan, and what character are we talking about in My Hero?
My name is Ryan Colt Levy. I'm a weirdo originally from New York. I've been in LA now about 6 years. I was a musician for many, many, many moons. About 20 years of my life, I was singing and playing guitar in bands and all that crazy stuff. And I've always been obsessed with film and theater and anything creative. I make weird paintings and just kind of, I don't know what to do with my energy if I'm not creating. So I kind of always just have to do something, even if it doesn't go anywhere. And for the last 2.5 years or so, I've been incredibly fortunate to have found a career in acting, and in particular voice acting, and doing a bunch of video games and anime and stuff. So some of y'all may have heard me at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Welcome to Demon School, Record of Ragnarok, Saints Magic Powers Omnipotent, Final Fantasy VII Remake, a bunch of crazy things, bunch of things. It has been surreal, and the character we are talking about today is a really, really special one. His name is Rody Soul, and he's part of My Hero Academia World Heroes mission.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to do that part. I just got really excited to ask this question.
Oh my
No,
God,
you're
don't
good.
be-
Don't be
no,
sorry. Oh, yeah.
there are no rules, you know that,
Yeah, I
especially
know.
with me.
It's
Chaos
because
reigns.
recently I've kind of like seen a lot of like there's always discourse of like, oh, sub versus dub or whatever.
Sure.
But like recently, especially because of another property, Netflix specifically, people were like being insulting to like if you watch the dub of something, like of Squid Game. And they were
Oh,
like,
Yeah,
if you watch the
it's just
dub,
a-
I mean,
you're
well,
people were like that
I
about
think a lot
Attack
of the
on Titan too.
conversations, a lot of the conversations are just really convoluted and ultimately pointless. I'm very much
yeah,
of the mind of like, I don't pay attention to that stuff because
yeah.
I don't see the need to like be pushing the narrative of the argument. Like it's literally just
Mhm.
subjective opinion. And like
I
people are
just figured
allowed to
because
have, you know.
you are somebody that's in this realm. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but
I
it
just
is
wanted to see what you had to say about it.
but I don't take it personally. Like if someone doesn't want to watch a dub because it's not how they like to watch something, or like if they prefer to watch in a different language, like that's totally up to them. And I think it's like it's ridiculous to ridicule anybody over, you know, taste in anything. That's insane.
Yeah.
But I just don't entertain the argument because it's not an argument to me. It's just a difference of opinion that people are very much allowed to have. Um, and it's, you know, I've just never really concerned myself with it. I don't know. Anytime I see people talk about it, it's kind of like, why? Why are we having this conversation? There's so many other conversations we can have.
Mhm.
And it's what's interesting is I've actually I mean I've been really fortunate, and what I wasn't expecting with this role in particular is a lot of people not from America have been reaching out to me. Like internationally, I've been getting a lot of support for this role, including like from Japan and ways that I wasn't quite expecting, in the sense of like they're equally as supportive of the English actors there as they are, you know, their seiyuu. So it's really, really cool. And sorry, there's a dog barking in my neighbor's place. Uh, so I'm way more on the, you know, team of like we're all doing this together. It's not meant to be, you know, this
Mhm.
team versus that team thing.
I remember back when Persona 4 came out in the early 2000s, and the internet was still kind of, blooming, but that was the first time I remember talking to someone from Japan and them being like, "Oh my God, I love the English dub for this game." And at that time, I was like, "But why? Like, it's not in your native language." And I love the way that the English voice cast characterized these characters, and I don't actually like the Japanese version of it, the Japanese dub, because I feel like it just sounds so cartoony. But when I hear it in English, I love that characterization, and I thought that was such an interesting take, and it completely made me reevaluate the way I thought about that sort of stuff for the rest of my life.
In general, yeah, because you know, everybody just takes this stuff in differently. It's how you take in your content. It's the same way that, like, you know, if we could probably spend this entire episode just talking about Dune if everybody saw it and the differences of opinions we'd have on it. You know, I, I tend to really, you know, like my thing that I really enjoy about sharing roles in this way and watching the sub and the dub on things is you even if the role is the same, the lines are the same, and you know, obviously the dialogue is going to change a bit, but you're never going to deliver it with the same energy, even if it's literally the same thing that you're doing, because it's still a personal interpretation of that moment. You know, you're still channeling, like, that's where the actor part comes in. And it's whether it's the tone of the specific project or this or that or whatever, those are all other elements. But as an actor, like all of us all over the world are making those choices personally as much as it is being, and ultimately, all of it is us doing that to be like true to the character. You know, we're honoring the character, and it goes back to none of us own this character. The creators created this character. Like, we are simply lucky enough to get to be a part of it and put words, you know, put the voice in their body. But like, we don't own them. We don't get to like be them. You know, I get to be a part of this and share it with you guys. You know, I feel like I'm just sharing it with everyone.
You know what that reminds me of? Rob Paulson. He always,
Oh, I
anytime
love
somebody
Rob
tells
Paulson.
him, anytime somebody brings up a character he's voiced, he's like, I don't write him and I don't draw him. Like,
Yeah,
like
you know, it's we're all really just like lucky to be here, and it takes so many people. Like, you know, when any of us have a visceral reaction to art, right? Whether it's a film, a game, a paint, whatever it is, you know, painting is, you know, more singular, but whether it's a video game or, you know, you watch a show or something, like that's a collective effort of so many people. Often more don't get credit that should, you know, like usually the people that get credit for something that you experience, it's like, you know, an actor, maybe a director, maybe the animator, maybe a whatever, but like it's often that there's so many things that you're experiencing to make that moment, that experience, what it is, and all of those people are what make it special, you know. Like, it's hard, it's a weird thing to like to be in my situation, because I'm so appreciative of the support and everything, but I also acknowledge like I'm just one piece of a really huge puzzle that I couldn't do any of the other elements. You know, like I can just do my part, and like it's hard to explain, but I think you know what I mean.
I think major shout out to all the translators out there, whether you're
Oh
translating
yeah,
English work into another language or another language into English work. Like the
yeah, the
amount of
adapters are
effort,
amazing.
yeah, the amount of effort that goes into that stuff, and like adding in what you would think of as like an American colloquialism into you know, adapting it from a Japanese work into an English work is such a monumental task to make it make sense for a different audience.
Yeah,
And
it's
big
insane.
shout
And the
out to those
script,
guys.
specifically Jeremy, who wrote the script to who adapted the script for World Heroes Mission, like it's one of the like greatest gifts was getting to work on that script, because it was like, or work off of that script I should say, because it was like it was just all there. Like all of the writing was so tight and so like defined. There was never a moment where it was like, oh, that doesn't seem right, like saying it, like we should, you know, flip that or something. It was so natural, and it's watching the film, like getting to see it in full, all of the dialogue throughout the whole thing is just so visceral and palpable, and it's, yeah, it's a real talent.
Absolutely. Um, kind of in that world, do you, in film you have kind of this freedom of improv, of maybe adjusting dialogue in a scene because of, you know, something that comes out and it hits you emotionally different just in that moment, so you say
Right.
something that's a little off from your normal line and they're like, wow, that was amazing, let's keep that in, whatever. When it comes to animation and stuff like that, has there ever been a moment where improv came into play, or you needed just another beat or something to make it match the mouth movement better
Oh,
that
all the
actually
time.
worked? Yeah.
All the time. It's not to say like, oh, we improvise and it's always perfect and it works on every project, but I just mean in the sense of like, it's kind of always, you're always navigating something. Like even in this movie, with the script being as perfect as it is, there, you know, there can be maybe a scenario where, based on like how fast or slow I might talk naturally, or how I might interpret a thing, and based on how many flat, like you always, it always has to adhere to what is actually happening in the picture, obviously, but within that realm there are malleable things that you can do with that space, and sometimes it's just a, you know, a tiny adjustment of a way a reaction would come off. Sometimes it's literally changing words, you know, sometimes it's spinning a phrase that's already written slightly differently, because you're like, oh well, I would say it this way instead, like this character would say it this way versus this way. But it always has to, you know, whatever you're improvising, especially to, you know, when you're doing it to picture, it has to adhere to the flaps, and it has to adhere to literally what's happening in the story. Like it can't just be like some wacky improv that doesn't push the narrative, if that has to push the narrative, you know. So it has to be conscious, but it happens all the time. Like, and it's not just me, and it's not, it's directors do it, other actors do it, writers will do it on the fly. Like, it's just part of this process because, sometimes things are written before actors are cast, and then those actors, maybe the writer didn't know, like, oh, I can write it, I can tune it to that voice a little bit, like whatever the case may be. So that comes down to, and in the sessions, the director and the actor kind of like slightly reshape things, versus like rewriting.
Just a quick heads up, Ryan. I believe your microphone audio is coming through your earphones and not your actual mic.
Really?
Yeah.
No
I just
way.
noticed every time the microphone would hit your collar, I can hear it pop.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Good
Let
old
me
good old
fix it. I'm so
Discord.
sorry.
No, it's totally fine. It's not your fault.
Still sound good though.
I never
it still
used
sounds good.
Discord, so well,
Even if you
let's make it
use
sound better.
Discord, this stuff still happens because it will just automatically change your settings all the time.
Oh
There
yeah.
was a whole episode a few months back where for some reason it defaulted to my webcam audio. Even though my microphone
Oh.
is right here, I noticed that Discord was still picking up my webcam audio, and I'm like, I'm muted. What
What
the
is
hell's
happening?
going on? Oh, shit.
That's brutal. I'm sorry for all the ruffling then too. I think
it's
it
good.
should be good
No,
now.
you're
Yeah,
good.
it sounds great.
Awesome.
Who was it? Was it Camille that we were recording something, and then
Yeah.
he recorded something like 2 episodes of something, and then like at the end of it, he was like, "Fuck, I was using the wrong microphone."
It
Damn
was
it."
his microphone
This
wasn't even
laptop.
plugged in. It
It wasn't
wasn't
plugged in. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Good old
And I was
Camille.
like,
It was great.
I was gonna tell him like your microphone sounds different, dude, and I just didn't say anything, and it was so worth it.
He kept
It
like
was so.
because his microphone.
It's only
was
my
always-
job to know what microphone I'm using, so it's like,
Yeah.
not that embarrassing.
Gotta
So-
love remote conference calls.
So that's something
Oh,
really
yeah.
interesting. You've worked on live action dubbing as well,
Yeah,
and
that's actually how I got my start.
okay. So we'll get into that in just a second. But when you're performing in that kind of scenario, it's very different than animation. Animation feels like it has a little bit more flexibility. Where when you're doing live action, I don't know for sure, but just from watching it, you have like much more fine detail in the character's emotion because it's a person portraying that character,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you are then, looking at that performance and looking at your lines. What are some of the differences in that as far as animation versus live action?
You definitely touched on it. The biggest, like obvious differences are in animation, you can be more, and like you have to be, like it demands a much broader range of like emotion to like sense of it, uh to transfer that like energy, like through the experience. But with live action dubbing, it is a lot more about playing it really small and really trying to like fit the body more than it is fit the character. It really comes down to great casting a lot of the times, because like a really great casting director for live action dubbing will know that, like, will do the thing where they can, even though it's kind of disorienting seeing someone's, speaking other kind of syllables and vowels and hearing another accent coming out, a great casting director will find the voice that still sounds like it's coming out of that body. And that's really like the trick to it first, is just getting the right people in there. And then the actual performance side of it is it's a lot more in the like with your body in a weird way, because like even though it's animation, we're moving around a lot, and like it's big. With live action dubbing, you're using your body more in the actions, because in animation, that stuff's usually sound effects. That stuff's usually like put there for you, and all they need is kind of the effort from your voice. But let's say like you're you have to pick something up, or do some kind of action, you have to make it a lot more physical, in a sense of like people almost have to hear your body move in a weird way, like without it, like actually hearing it move. So it's an unusual kind of dance, but it's fun. It's very fun. I mean, I don't personally see them as different jobs. I see them as like kind of different problems to solve within the same thing.
Are you saying actors don't flap their lips the way anime characters do? I love that term flaps, though. Can you just
Flaps, yeah.
explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. For those who don't know, because it's kind of the shorthand that we use when we're working on the stuff is, it's about fitting the flaps and, matching the flaps and all that stuff. So when you watch an animated show, whether it's anime or not, it's still, even in Western animation, like there's still a lot of flappage. It's when you're looking at a character's mouth. Quite often, if you really pay attention, it just looks like they're going. So it's just
Yeah,
flap,
but
flap,
that's
flap, flap,
more
flap.
there's more of like it's a very binary in anime. It's either open mouth or closed mouth.
Yeah.
And like in Western animation, you get like different syllables
They'll give you different syllables, but sometimes you'll still watch this stuff and be like, "This is just as flappy as any anime." Like, it just comes down to like, ultimately what's interesting is like, I think what a lot of people don't realize too with animation is like anything that's made here is going to get dubbed somewhere else. So it kind of all just comes into this like giant soup where like all of it's just the same and we're all doing the same weird job.
Love me some flap soup.
Yeah, flap soup. But yeah, it's basically just it's fitting the lip flaps, and a lot of that is, that's how they know how much dialogue to fit in, where you have to put the spaces and stops and emotional beats, and that also then dictates how you have to perform, because if a line is written a certain way, like I was talking about it, we can't talk about it now for spoiler effect, but in the movie, there's another character that has this line that is like, it's just a sentence that you would normally just say like blah 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 blah, but the way that the scene is edited, it like cuts back and forth between him and my character, and it's like uh uh and like the actor had to make that sentence sound fluid but also sound like it was happening in this like cut, and it's the kind of thing that like the sentence doesn't naturally break that way, the way that it's written, but all of the things at play made it so like you have to do it, so like make it work, like, and that's up to the actor to be good enough to make sense of it, and like it totally plays in the movie. But I remember just like my technical brain being like, oh my god, like I can see them in the booth that day being like, okay, how do we have to fit this where, and like how it happens a
Well,
lot because it's especially translating from another language.
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark, having not seen the movie, but you don't have to tell me yes or no. I'm just gonna take a guess as to who this character is and what they're talking about.
You wouldn't know the
Uh,
character if you haven't seen the
is
movie,
it
I'll say that much.
Mineta being a really big pervert and just
I
talking about his female
think you
classmates
just
the
wanted
whole
to say
time?
that, huh? No,
I
it's a
hate
character who's
Mineta, dude. I hate Mineta so much. I
no,
like
it's a
little
movie
grape.
villain character.
Got it.
Um, but it's yeah, you'll when you see it, you'll probably know exactly what I'm saying now.
Mhm.
Like, but it's one of those things where like, and now you'll hear it and be like, yeah, I could see how that would be tricky, and that's part of the fun of it, honestly. But it definitely is what makes it interesting, and I think that's where a lot of people, who either choose not to watch dubs or might want to criticize like the way that localization works. Like, I think that's what I don't realize, like all of the elements that come into play. It's not like you
Forward.
can just like, I'm gonna write this and therefore like, it's there's so many things you have to adhere to, even if you're, manipulating it. So it becomes a really interesting puzzle.
The way I understood it, Ryan, is that you're almost like talking about like having to fade your audio out and then back in between those transitions so as to not have it sound like it's chopped if it's just chopped. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Like having to control the volume of your voice and like have to fade it out and then back in between those like cuts that you were talking
Oh,
about. Is
no,
that the
no,
kind of
no,
thing
no,
you're
no. That's all like the
post?
engineering and yeah,
Right.
like that's all. No, that's done there in the moment because you're working with an engineer and stuff. But it's more of just um it's literally just like if the flaps are here on the screen and then there's a cut, like you have to not, that's where you can't say the words. Like you have to fit it here and then wait and then fit it here. And so it's like, if I have to say I want a bagel, and it's in that kind of a scenario where it's like, I want a bagel, like it's, you have to find a
Right.
way to make it, or it has to be like, I want a bagel, like you have to find a way to put whatever you need to put, and it's gonna one way will sound weirder than another way or whatever, and
Fascinating.
it's fascinating. Like the more I do it, 2 years ago when I first started, it was way more like foreign to me in just the whole process, and I was kind of just like I was it was way more just trust the director, just make a choice and like hope it all makes sense. And now I really kind of like feel way more comfortable in the space as a whole, and it feels more like we're kind of all making a thing together. So it definitely takes time for your brain, even if you like love it and watch it and experience it, when you're actually working on it, because there's just so many elements to take in all at once that
Right.
it takes some time for you to, it's a muscle that you have to really get comfortable with training, and there's always something new to learn and finesse and grow with. It's such a fun, weird job.
So cool.
By the way, you wouldn't if you're talking about anime, you wouldn't say bagel, you would say jelly donut, especially if you're Brock in anime.
Ah, the onigiri, yes.
That's one of my favorite like stupid things. It's like what is it like a rice ball?
Well,
Like, what
I
is
mean,
it?
that's a good example of like, that wouldn't be the scenario anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where a lot of people who are like angry about, localization and translation stuff, it's like they go back like 20 years to make an argument, and it's like
Well, that's not how
interesting
it is now.
choice. Yeah, like
Yeah, I think definitely we've seen so many translations come a long way in the last 30 years of anime.
and just in general, I think like all across the board, the quality of writing, performers, voice directing, and it's not just here, it's literally all over, like all over the world, down to the animation in these shows, like everything is kind of growing and evolving and reshaping, and it's never staying in the same place. So I think it's kind of this universal, um we're kind of like experiencing this moment right now where like anime specifically is really kind of like taking over the world in a really cool way, that it's always been there in so many ways for the last 20, 30 years for people, and now it's really kicking into the mainstream, and it's not just a niche thing anymore. Now people are really understanding it's everything. It's high art, it's zany, it's everything.
Yeah, it used to be like, oh, I saw this really cool cartoon like on Toonami or whatever, and then a little bit after that, you started to get the classification of, oh, this is not even made in America. This is a Japanese show. Oh wow, there's this whole world of Japanese shows, and then like 2000s hit, and more people are starting to watch it, and then Attack on Titan happens, and the world explodes with anime for a little bit, and then My Hero happens, and then the world explodes again, and now it just feels, like you were saying, we're just in this gigantic explosion of anime everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, and between all of those and Demon Slayer and One Piece and Dragon Ball and like
Yep.
and
Demon
and not
Slayer,
to,
absolutely.
yeah, oh yeah, Demon Slayer. It was so interesting going to Comic-Con because I'd never been to a Comic-Con in person, but when I think of it, I think of the big two, right? We think of Marvel and DC, and then like other stuff is there. But when we went, neither of them had like big representation there this year, and it was so insanely obvious that anime was like the top dog. Like it was literally there were Dragon Ball statues that were 70 feet tall. Like it was like gigantic statues. There were floor to ceiling, billboards and things for Shonen Jump. You had Chainsaw Man stuff going on. You had huge My Hero billboards, huge things for Demon Slayer. Like 80 to 90% of the cosplay was anime centric. Most of the booths had anime stuff. It was like it felt like anime was Comic-Con, and it's very clear that like even when DC and Marvel come back, like anime is now a big three. Like anime as a an appreciated art form like is here to stay in a big way.
That's awesome.
That's
Now,
Now,
wild.
Ryan, I need to ask Ryan with the character of Rody. I
Sure.
saw this character and I'm like, did Ryan have some part in designing this character? It's such a Ryan-esque character. It's amazing. So I need to know, did you have any involvement in that?
Yeah,
I like
no,
I like
of
the idea
course
that
not.
Ben's been trying to ask this for like 10 minutes.
What? Of course not. Of course I didn't. This is, this is stuff that is, these are incredible creators way outside of any of our pay grade or anything. Like it's so crazy because I remember a few things. I tangent, so apologies. But one, it's a testament to Colleen Clinkenbeard, our extraordinary voice director and casting director, who does all of My Hero, all of the show and the films, who I will touch on in a second. But um,
Sorry.
the funny thing is, I remember seeing trailers for the movie, in Japanese, maybe half a year ago at this point, a long time ago, when they were first kind of like teasing it loosely. And I remember seeing Rody and thinking like, who is that? That is such a dope character. Like what? Like that is so my guy, and never once thinking I would ever even remote. In my mind, I was like, oh, that's already cast. Like I thought even then they had already probably done the movie and they were just waiting to talk about it here. So, and I'm used to Funimation, particularly My Hero. Like I've been doing a lot with Funimation lately over the last year, but My Hero is kind of like this golden goose that I never expected to, get invited to that party. So, um, I just remember seeing that trailer and being like, "Oh, he's dope. I can't wait to see this," and not thinking anything of it. And then it was in April of this year that I got an email from Colleen Clinkenbeard, who I had never spoken with before personally, who I was so certain didn't know I existed. So I'm not sure how she ended up getting my email, who gave it to her, who who
For
pushed that
reference,
on her.
she's the
Voice
English dub
director,
director.
yeah, and casting director. Yeah.
Yeah, of My Hero
Um,
Academia, and
yeah.
she's also a character, right? I keep forgetting her name. Or isn't she a character in My Hero Academia? Or
Oh yeah, she's Momo.
she's Momo? Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Nice.
Yeah. And she's also, I mean, she's Luffy on One Piece. Like she's directed she directed voice directed Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like she's a legend. And she's
Mhm.
extraordinarily talented actress and incredible voice director. She's just like she's absolutely amazing. Um and so I've been a fan of her, not just her as an actor, but as a voice director, because I adore this show. Like this is my favorite show. And I genuinely have felt for a long time that the performances on it are just so unique across the board. Like to the one-liner, like the most ancillary weirdo, like everybody is such a unique thing, and it's not just a great performance. It's like, what is the voice? Like what a unique performer, and that's Colleen, and just having that magic. And so April of this year, I get an email from her, and I instantly like freak out, to myself because I'm like, what's happening? And it was sides to audition for characters in the fifth season that was currently going on. And so, like, my heart stops, my brain explodes, and I'm like, this is what's happening. And at the same time, I was like, this is never going to actually, like, actually really be a thing. So I remember she wrote in the email, like, these roles, something like it was going to take 10 weeks for her to cast them, which is highly unusual. Whenever you read for something, it's usually like, especially with anime, it's usually like you find out in like a couple of days or a week after you send it in because it's a tight schedule.
Mhm.
So, she was like, these roles are 10 weeks away from being cast. I'm specifically like, throwing them to you guys now so I can hear everybody's choices, give you time if you want, blah, blah, blah. So I sent them in an hour. And I just like went crazy. There were like a few characters that I just like vibed with enough, and I was like, I'm just gonna give a range of stuff, and I know I'm not gonna get cast in this, and I just want Colleen to hear me. At this point, I just wanted to know that that I got her email, and I want her to just hear me. So I just gave performances and kind of like sent it off and was like, well, I'm glad she at least knows I'm a person. I'll never hear from her again. And and it was really funny because then it was like literally like 4 or 5 months, and then out of nowhere one night randomly, and it's just how this stuff works, right? Like she followed me on Twitter one night, and I was like, what's going on here. And like there was no like interaction otherwise, but there was this thing of like something's happening. I'm not sure what's happening, but I think something's happening. And I'm like, don't panic. So I just kind of like let it go. I'm like, maybe she just liked my auditions. Maybe she was like, oh, like I'll keep an eye on him for the future kind of thing. Like that was my like most optimistic version of it. Because
Maybe she's just following you to make sure you never get into the space, and she's like, I'm gonna keep my eye on him to make sure he doesn't.
exactly. Maybe it's like, well, I just want to make sure I never hire this guy. Exactly. And then it was literally 5 months to the day that she sent me the auditions that she emailed me, and it was August 10th, and offered me Rody, and I lost my mind because I was like, I don't understand what's happening. I remember like getting the email and like reading it twice and like trying to process that, and then I like looked up the character and I was like, no, like it was so. It's still hard to process. Like
It's meant to
genuinely.
be, you know.
That's so amazing. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
I think one of the things that I love is that you are constantly calling out those people, the casting directors and the people that you're working with. And I think
man.
that's so awesome because it's like you were saying earlier, there's so many pieces to these puzzles that just aren't given enough credit. You know, the cinematographer for a movie isn't given nearly enough credit for
That's
making
why
that
we
movie
love those
look good.
visuals. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah, no,
No.
it's so true.
One of my favorite videos I've seen that has to do with like anime or anything is the video of Colleen in the booth like directing like somebody. This is like seasons ago of My Hero Academia, but she's like directing like somebody like to do a certain scene, and she's like, "Okay, can you do that again? But can you do that with more energy?" And da, 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 da. Like it's
Yeah,
so
you can
fascinating to
see-
see like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just
Aspect
had
of
the,
it.
the shorthand, and the cool thing is like every actor and director has a different shorthand. Like every director not only works differently from other directors, but every director then works differently with every actor, based
Mhm.
on what that relationship is, how that, the energy, all that kind of stuff, what you need from the performance, what you may need on that day. And it was really interesting because Colleen and I still haven't met each other in person. Like I
Yeah,
was recording it all here in LA, and she's, recording
this
me
was
remotely
last year,
from
right? That you were
Texas.
recording this.
Oh, this was literally a few months ago. We recorded it in September. Like
Oh,
we were recording this movie like literally only a little bit
to the wire.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I was so sure it was long done already, so I was cast in, mid-August, So it was bonkers, and we did about like 12, 13 hours on it. So it was really, really amazing. And yeah, it's cool. Like if you can find footage of like people working in the booth on YouTube, especially with Colleen, like it's so fun to watch because you see how like there you can see, especially because everyone on that cast is so good that you just see the immediate like understanding of the note and the change, and you can see how an actor takes a note and can interpret it into the way that the director needs it. And like that's for anybody who wants to get into this, that's a great thing to see firsthand because you don't often get to see that stuff. I think the scene you're talking about is with J. Michael Tatum, where she's talking about where it's like they're dressed up as they're like putting on disguises, and if I remember correctly, that's out there somewhere, and it's like having them kind of like doing it's like him and Justin Bryan are like doing all the like fake personas within their character things, and it's like it's so funny. Justin
How
too,
cool was it
Justin
to see all
Briner.
this amazing fan art, Ryan? How awesome is that?
Oh my God, yeah, I haven't even. Oh my gosh, the fan art and the cosplays and stuff. It's been so insane. It has been so. This whole month has been the most like. I'm convinced that this is all just a giant dream now, because this last month has been so surreal. People have been so wildly supportive. I mean, the artists that have literally not just daily, but almost like hourly, like seem to come up with new Rody pieces, and just like the fact that everyone goes out of their way to tag me to show me this stuff. Like the talent out there is so extraordinary. It's mind blowing. And then people cosplay. Literally, there were people cosplaying as Rody on opening night of the movie and sending pictures, and it was like, how do you? Like what? It's just so wild to me. I met somebody. hosted a little showing of it here on Wednesday, and it was so sweet. Like all these people came through, and it was friends and fans and fellow actors, and then there were obviously just people that didn't even know what was going on and just went to see the movie. But some people were dressed up. There was someone fully dressed up as like what Deku wears in the movie, and I was like, "Look amazing!" They're like, "Thanks, I did this today." I was like, "You did it today?" Like, wild.
That's a spoiler.
That's
The
awesome.
dedication is just incredible.
All right.
It's so cool to see. Do you know if you're allowed to say if we're likely to see Rody outside of the movie? Is it something you can?
I wish. I mean, it's nothing that would I love it, of course, but I have no
Mm.
I have no obviously no say. And I have
Usually
no
these
idea.
usually these My Hero movies are contained universes.
Usually the stuff is
in-
contained, and like I mean, and the truth is like, if this is all I ever get of Rhodey, it is the greatest gift. Like,
Mm.
those of you who haven't seen it, like when you do, you will understand why it's like I couldn't dream of asking for more. Like they gave me everything. Like I couldn't believe, like, because I also didn't realize. I knew he was important when I got cast. I knew there was a lot of hours booked, so I was like, he's gonna be substantial. But I didn't know until we were actually doing it, like how special he was, and how special he was to me, and how close. You said before, like, did I have part in designing him,
design.
which is a funny joke, but like the crazy part is like, the reason Colleen cast me in this is because she has some supernatural sixth sense of like, without even knowing me, she knew that Rhodey was part of me. Like she just knew that I've lived part of that life. I've been parts of this person before, and it's crazy.
I think that's the fascinating thing about the world of anime. Like in video games, we've gotten to this point where people that loved video games as kids are making video games.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's the same thing for anime. You've got people that have been in anime that are now not just actors, they're now, as we were talking about, voice directors. So those people who love this craft and love the work that they're doing are now making that work even better. And so someone like Colleen is using her sixth sense to just make every character in My Hero so memorable. I posted on Twitter the other day how I think it has easily one of the best dubbed casts out of any anime
1,000%.
ever.
I keep telling everybody, and it's like, and like people are like, really, and I swear my favorite two lines in the entire movie are separate one-liners from no-named characters, because the delivery is just so good, and it's just one of those things where you're like, that's my hero, that's Colleen, and that's what every actor brings to this when they get to be a part of it. Is it doesn't matter if you literally just say two words and that's it, and your character's not named. Like that actor is going to give 1,000%, and Colleen is going to actually spend time with that person to make sure that they get it right. Versus like, oh yeah, you just say like, can I have that, and then you leave. Like that's no, and it's not just Colleen. It's not just this show. Like that's where we are now with doing this work. Like.
It's just the space in general.
Yeah, like we're under crazy schedules and deadlines and stuff like that, but passion and dedication across the board, nobody wants to do anything subpar. And everyone is like not just bringing their love for anime itself into this and how much they want to do it right. It's everyone is also just like a big nerd for the craft. Like we love acting, we love movies, we love storytelling. So it's like we get really dorky with it, in ways that like aren't necessarily anime dorky. It's like we get like, like nerdy with like movie talk, and like it's character development, and it's that stuff that don't often get to really get into, but I think is why people experience when they watch the stuff, why they connect with it.
Speaking of that love, I think one of the cool things about, if Rhodey never makes it out of, the movie, if he never makes it into the general universe, that doesn't mean that you can't be part of the My Hero world ever again. That's the kind of the fun thing about voice acting, is that you could craft a different character, and, be a different character within that universe. And
I mean,
yeah.
that's obviously a possibility. Like I would never dream of, like, again, for the same reason of like there's so many incredible actors that haven't
Absolutely.
been a part of it yet that I can't wait to see become a part of it. Like I never thought I would, and to get this, like I don't need, like, like would I love to would I love to get to keep working with that team? Yes. Like, that's the upside to getting to work on the show, is obviously the like you don't unless you like explode or something, like you get to, you get to keep playing with them for a little bit. But like have this at all, it's beyond a gift. And like and like you said, it never goes away. Like even if this is it still never goes away. The fandom has been so extraordinary and has been so like it's a never ending,
He
giving
will always
thing.
be
And I've
known as
seen
Rody.
and I've seen, yeah, well, yeah, and like that's incredible, and I have other friends who have been characters on the show who have like, since not been on the show anymore, and I see that like, fans aren't just like we're done with you now. It's like, people are, like those characters are still in people's minds every day, so it's really special. It's a shared thing that it never goes away, even if your character isn't in the present, like it's just this universe is just so special, and it really is one of the most supportive fan bases. People, I think it's a testament to what the show is, like what it stands for. That fans of it are really like really positive and uplifting and unified and believe in each other and just support each other, and it's really really incredible.
Awesome.
Really go plus ultra.
Yeah.
Go beyond.
Uh,
Plus ultra.
Nobody beyond. Where the fuck did you get that from?
Yeah, go
Beyond.
Oh,
Plus
go
ultra.
beyond. Okay, I didn't hear the go beyond.
beyond.
I just heard beyond, and I was like, this isn't PlayStation. McKenna, do you have any questions for Ryan?
Of course I do. It's the natural.
I messaged her, Caesar. You could have just let her
That's
up.
amazing.
Hello. So
Hi.
I was curious. What is the biggest difference or differences between recording something for a TV series, a movie, and a video game?
It tends to be, it's interesting because like sometimes it's just scheduling, where it's like, with a movie, it's like you have to get it done in a short amount of time and do the whole thing. So like, the 12 or 13 hours that we did on this movie, if it were a show, probably would have been spread out over a longer period of time versus like 2 weeks, that we just like, ah! But it's actually more the case of like application of dubbing versus there's so many elements. All right. So like let's say like dubbing in general, there's actually almost multiple forms of that because with anime most of the time we do the beeps, which we call, people somewhat kind of know about, which is like before every line, it's all separated and you hear three beeps and then there is where, you deliver your line. There's also something called the rhythmo band, which is normally done a lot more for live action dubbing, but it's been integrated in some anime dubs where it's literally like a bar moving across the bottom of the screen with the dialogue on it, and there's like a meter that's basically like start here, and then the like kind of like
Whoa.
so, and either way, what you're doing is basically paying attention to both words and flaps and space and timing and energy and and everyone has a different method to how they process that and go about it. But then there's what we call prelay, which is animation which is voiceover for animation that hasn't been animated yet. So in that case, you're just working off of a script, and you have way more freedom as far as like timing. How you don't have to adhere to anything on a picture, so like you get to really define kind of all of it. And therefore, the way that you even just approach doing the take, sometimes it'll do like we'll call it A, B, and C, where if you have one line, you'll give an A take, a B take, and a C take. And not to say like they have to be wide ranging to the point where you're like, well, none of these really make sense to what this emotion is, but it's a sense of, sometimes it's just putting a different inflection on a thing or putting, slightly different bite on whatever it is, Um, and then the director will kind of like suss that out and be like, oh yeah, you know what, this is the one for this moment kind of thing. And you craft it that way. That happens a lot in video games as well because a lot of the time with video games you aren't working the picture, so you're doing prelay style. But then sometimes you might be doing it like with Final Fantasy. It was prelay as far as we just worked off a script, but there were also already Japanese voice tracks. So what they would do in that case is we just had to cater to the timing So it didn't matter necessarily how differently we delivered the line, as long as we fit in the space that that line needed to fit in time-wise for like the coding, or whatever it is that kind of like way beyond my comprehension. But um basically like the two extremes are either like two picture and not, and then there's like little ways that you adapt from there. And then obviously, motion capture and stuff like that, you're full on memorizing lines and it's way more like theater. And you're performing scenes like kind of fluidly through. Um so it's kind of a never ending like change of things. And depending on like if I do anime, a video game, and something else all in the same day, like your brain also has to kind of like rewire how you approach all of those things. So it's you're never really just doing one thing anyway. It's fun. You're always kind of jumping through hoops.
That's super interesting. Yeah. I haven't dabbled too much with audio stuff yet. I'm taking a class next semester about audio editing.
Oh,
So like
cool.
this is super interesting to me to learn all
She's
about.
working in production. She's studying production.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you guys should bring on. I should connect you with some of the like Alyssa, the amazing engineer who was the lead engineer on this movie. Like, there's some really really cool people that if you would like to have them on the show, I could talk to, because I feel like that would be a really
That'd be awesome.
unique side to this that like they deserve more screen time anyway. So like get some engineers and folks on here that could totally give you that. Like
I
I
would
can
love
get
that.
Jeremy for you guys if you'd like to talk with Jeremy, who did the adaptation.
Yeah, we've had a
They
couple
That'd be
editors
interesting.
and stuff on here, video production editors and stuff, but no one in that realm, and I would absolutely love
Yeah,
that for
writers
sure.
and engineers and stuff. I think you guys would be fascinated with how they explain how this stuff works, because it would really, open your eyes to a whole other side of it too.
A new appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Thank
cool.
you for your question. I'm so excited for you. That's super cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been really it's been fun learning about everything in a professional area. Um I was also curious. What has been your favorite part of working in the industry, in the acting industry?
Two things. It's one, getting to be as ridiculous as I get to be, like, and call it a job, where it's like, you get to play a banana one day, you get to like whatever it is, it's like it's so outrageous. But like the real best part of it, honestly, is the people that I get to work with and the fans that I get to interact with, and people like you, friends that I've made through doing this stuff. Like, it's that's the best part. Like, everything else is kind of like the icing on the cake, because I talk about it a lot. We all talk about it a lot in this industry. Like, literally in between sessions, or if we like go out for lunch or something, like, it's just an agreed upon thing that like we all love the work. We all are big fans of this stuff. Like, we love playing these games and watching these shows and getting to do this stuff, and it's a blast like that people let us do this stuff. But getting to do it together is the best part. And it's like it's the moments in between the lines where we talk about something else completely, or just spending that time with each other's energy that like no one else will ever get to hear. That like those are the best parts to me. It's the family that I never knew I was gonna have.
And my final thing, unless it's more of a comment, but
You're like,
unless
you suck. How do you think of
Critique.
that?
I'm pretty unless IMDb lied to me, I think we share a birthday.
Oh, when's your birthday?
February 12th.
Yeah, we do. That's awesome.
Who
Good
else do you share a
birthday.
birthday with, McKenna?
Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
No way.
And Charles Darwin.
Yes, same day and year. It's incredible.
Yes, come on.
1809. What a year.
That's so rad. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some other cool ones that are on the list now, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
McKenna can list them
Always-
off.
Judy Bloom.
Really? Oh, rad. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
It's a good birthday. Yeah.
I found out I shared a birthday with Robin Williams, and I was like, I'm done. I don't need to know
Oh, that's
anybody
aw-
else.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
that's
man.
amazing.
I
That's
share a
amazing.
birthday with Yo-Yo Ma.
That's awesome.
Oh,
Yo-Yo
I've
Ma's
never heard of
rad.
them. I don't know what they do.
Yo-Yo Ma is an
Awesome.
extraordinary cello player. Yeah, like
Cellist,
world
yeah.
world class
amazing.
virtuosic. Yeah, for a very long time.
What's funny is I know more people in my real life that share the same birthday with me than people like celebrities.
Interesting.
Like I'm more familiar. Like my sister and a good friend of mine, we share
When's
a
your birthday?
birthday. Yeah, March 23rd.
Huh, I'm trying to think if
Same.
I know anybody off the top, but I don't.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna
now
be like, that's mine, but I can't.
We're
we're
used to
on
sharing it.
to those community questions.
Oh, cool.
Community questions.
Oh, we don't have a song.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Whatever.
Community questions though.
Now you
There we
do.
go. Done. Perfect. Sniff that out and we'll use it every time now. We'll send you the residuals of $0.00.
Perfect.
He's used to it.
Tacos, not on me.
But Caesar, let's go ahead and start with you.
We got the first question from Erica Ambolina. She asks, friend of the show. She asks, how was it walking the red carpet dressed as a character you voiced in the My Hero Academia movie? Hope you are well.
Oh, thank you. I hope you're well too. It was surreal walking the red carpet. It was one of the most insane things ever. Yeah, I wore a scarf that was an homage to Rody. Rody has this like blue and red striped tie, and I was like, well, I'm gonna like dress up for the thing, but I should like also do something for the character. So I found what I thought was a fitting homage. But yeah, it was really crazy because I knew to some degree we'd be doing a red carpet. I just didn't know the premiere was going to feel like a Marvel premiere. Like it was so gigantic and like they pulled out all the stops. And we were in an elevator going from the hotel that they had us in, like going up to the premiere that was like on this like it was literally on the top of like a parking garage that they just like completely retrofitted this thing into like a full-on event. And we're going up in the elevator, and I look at Christina V, who plays Pino, and it was like me and her and Sarah Roach and Lisa Ortiz, everybody like in the cast. Justin Cook, who plays Kirishima, who's just amazing. And we're all looking at everybody. And I look at Christina. I'm like, "Are you ready?" And she goes, "Yeah." And she goes, "Are you ready?" And I go, "Yeah." And then the elevator opened, and we all went because it was just so insane. There were so many people and all this stuff, and like literally, and they just like pushed us onto the red carpet, and we are like, so it was bonkers. I was like, I'm gonna look like a deer in headlights in all of these interviews and pictures and stuff.
I really liked your Comic-Con panel where
Oh,
everyone was
man.
like, hey, you know, happy to be here. And then you get up there and you're like, what up, Comic-Con?
Is that like a dream? Is that like a highlight of your career so far?
Of course, I always wanted to scream something like that in some scenario.
Wait,
like
was this
that.
Hall
Like,
H?
It wasn't Hall H because it was here in it was in New York. But
Oh,
it was
okay.
it was the equivalent of Hall H for it there. It
In
was
New
their
York,
big
okay.
room there. Yeah, it was like 5,000 plus people, and
It's so
it was insane.
it's such a shame. You could have done San Diego Hall H. That's like the real.
I guess they weren't doing it this year or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
COVID.
it was wild, and they I told Lauren, the host, who's also amazing. She's like the face of like all Funimation kind of like stuff. If you see videos or anything, like Lauren is just the absolute rock star for the last couple of years. She's amazing. And she was like kind of like prepping us all backstage, like making sure we weren't gonna freak out when we got on stage and everything. And I was like, I'm just letting you know, like you may have to wrangle me. Like I apologize ahead of time. And like I don't know what's gonna happen up there. And she was like, okay. And and then that happened. So
Instead, people were writing articles like, wow, Ryan Colt Levy brought amazing energy to the Comic-Con panel.
I was so glad because I was like, I hope I don't scare anybody.
Side note: is it weird to know that you are like your face is on Getty Images? Like somebody
That
copyrighted.
was super funny. Yeah, that was a super funny realization to be like, oh my god, I made Getty Images. Like it's such a like not like important thing, but like to
It's
me,
not an
like,
important thing because it can happen to anybody. But like, it's also this is a red carpet thing.
It's just one of those funny, weird things where like anytime I've seen Getty Images, it's associated with like huge
You made it.
celebrities and stuff like so like what a funny weird like it's what's funny is like all that stuff is like whenever I see those kinds of things I'm like, oh, my mom's gonna be so happy. Like that's where like all of this stuff really goes. Like all of the like after flashiness is like that's all for mom. She's mom and dad and my sister, like they're the ones who like really soak up.
She's
know,
like, "Oh,
they're the
cool, you're a
best.
voice of a cartoon. That's awesome. Are you on Getty Images yet? No. Okay, I'll talk to you.
No,
later."
my mom saw the movie twice. My mom's literally started watching anime because I do it. Like
That's
One
awesome.
of my
it's I
favorite
don't I
tweets of yours.
yeah, no,
Those are
she legitimately watches this stuff like and enjoys it. Like she's watched all of Moriarty and she's like, when's part 2 coming out? She's catching up more and more on My Hero. She's like absolutely, and she'll when she talks to me now, like at first, when I first started doing it, it was all questions. And now it's like she'll she'll bring up characters, like she'll bring up scenarios. It's like now the questions are about the shows versus like the process, and so cool. I'm like, oh my god, you're a fan, mom, you're a fan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's something we didn't even get to talk about today, which is really sad. I really wanted to talk about Watson and
Oh
what it
yeah.
was like playing that character, but we'll probably have to save that for another time because we do
Oh,
have
and
more
Loki
community
too.
questions.
I will
We totally,
happily
like,
come back.
Yeah,
We totally skipped over Loki as well. That's another big accomplishment you had this year.
Loki was
Yeah.
super fun, and we know for sure. I mean, fingers crossed we get to dub it. I'm hoping we will, but we know for sure there's going to be a season 2 of Record of Ragnarok, and Loki definitely gets more playtime in that. So that's gonna be cool.
All right. So I have a community question from one
Sure.
JC Lego man who asks, "How did you get so handsome?"
Oh my gosh. AC Lego man, you are far too kind. I don't have a good answer for that because I think that's just a very nice compliment. Uh,
All right,
Now I'm
Al.
blushing.
I know you have a community question.
I do indeed. Jake at Jake Psych Doctor asks.
They're gonna be like Jake at
Uh,
State Farm.
He asks, when is Rody coming to My Hero Academia, the strongest hero?
Oh, he's already
And how-
he's already in it.
And then
Yeah,
the
he's-
second part of the question, I think, plays more into it.
How did you like his gameplay? Is the second part. of the
Oh,
question.
okay. So maybe they phrased it slightly wrong. Yeah, it's so that was also a really interesting thing because we had finished recording the movie. It was literally a few weeks, but I want to say it was after Comic-Con. I came home from Comic-Con. It was like mid-October, and I get another email from Colleen, which at this point we were just organizing all the different events and things. So like I was getting different emails from her about all kinds of stuff. And then this thing came through and they're like, "Oh, we have Rody lines for this video game." And I was like, "What?" What? And so it's that weird thing because again, I was already convinced like that was it, so like even that much I was like, you're kidding. So and it was only a couple of lines, because it's not for that game, like there's only so many lines of dialogue that any character has, and he's like a support card, so it's like 5 or 6 lines or something like that. And so they're like, yeah, it's gonna be super short session, it'll be super fun, like, just come in, knock it out. I hadn't played the game before until that, so like I didn't know what it was, I didn't know what it looked like, and I didn't realize like he was gonna be like full on in the game that way. So my like I just thought like more basic mobile game when I was thinking of it. So got to the premiere here in LA and do the red carpet stuff, and we're kind of like they like put us into this other back section, and they had like these little kiosks set up with the game, and they had Rody there, like playable, and like you could just get on there and play as him, and like I didn't realize, and like I was talking to somebody, and then they like turned me around, and I saw him on the screen. And I literally just went, ah! I just screamed, and like the people there who were like running the game and like parts of the company, they were super super happy that I was so excited. It was so funny. They were screaming with me. I was screaming. They're like, "Do you want to play him?" I was like, "What?" And I just kept saying like I didn't have like full sentences. I just kept screaming at them. I was like, "You can't be serious!" Like, and then Zeno Robinson, who is a good buddy of mine. He voices Hawks on the show. He was like walking by at that moment, and he comes and gives me a hug, and he sees that I'm like in shock because I'm like not processing what's happening, and then he sees the screen and he goes, ah, and we start screaming together, And then he grabs my phone. He's like, "Ah, take a picture of you." So he like snapped a bunch of pictures of me, like just staring at the screen like a deer in headlights, because he was like, "Yeah," it's just so funny. So I didn't know it was gonna be like that, and I'm still trying to get him in the game now. It's so hard to get.
Yeah,
This
6
is our
star,
plea.
man. Woo.
Put Rody in the game.
Yeah.
I hope if they make another One Justice sequel that you get to be Rody in that. That'd be amazing.
That would be so cool. I wonder what they would do with him, because like he's not like
Right.
like a fighter. It's like he's a fighter in the spirit, but he's not he's not one to use his fists. So he
Yeah.
can parkour all over the place for sure. But it would be like, that's the only thing that like makes me feel like those kinds of scenarios are less likely because of that. Like, because he's a really unique character in a lot of ways to the series, and we won't get into it, but yeah. There are definitely, like, if they wanted to, I'm sure there are things they could do, but it's like I can't speculate on that stuff, and
Right. Oh, of course.
at this point it's like, just like with the Strongest Hero, like if I get that email, I will scream happily. But like, like I just never assume those emails come unless they show up, and then it's like, so yeah.
Engage. What about your community question?
So my question comes in from our good friend Robin GL. It's a two-parter. Actually, it's not a two-parter. It's two separate questions.
Four-parter.
Actually, technically, the first one's a three-parter, and then there's a next question.
Amazing.
So the first one is, what's your favorite way to drink coffee? What's your favorite brewing method? And then your favorite coffee type.
Okay, all right. Favorite way to drink it? I'm gonna say just straight up espresso. Or like if I'm having like if I'm hanging out, like I'll have a latte of some sort. Tend to get a lot of oat milk these days, because even though I love me some like heavy cream, like some like real like hardcore dairy, it just congests me like instantly. So oat milk for me, it's like it does the creaminess, and it doesn't ruin my face, especially considering it helps with not being all gunky doing my job. I actually
Stay handsome for JC Lego Man.
I have it right here. I have a stovetop, but it's an electric percolator that I use for my at-home methods, because it's basically just like a 1 cup kind of espresso style. Then I can just keep making more. And my favorite type of coffee, I kind of don't have one. I tend to, like, as far as like dark, mild, or medium kind of thing, I tend to go either medium or mild, because I used to go full on dark, and then I realized that there's actually way more caffeine in the lighter blends, and I tend to like the flavor profiles more of the lighter and medium bodied ones. It's when you get into the dark bean territory, it gets a little dirty sometimes, like a little just kind of like earthy in a weird way. So that's my dorky answer. I could talk about coffee for a while.
You're not making espresso with medium roast beans, are you, Ryan?
No, I use espresso beans for that thing, but like if I'm making just a regular coffee, yeah. For this, I
was offended.
I tend to just buy like Illy, if I'm like at a market or something like that, like the Illy espresso, stuff like that, like that mid cheap high tier, it's like, or if I'm at a nice fancy mom and pop place and they have some really good espresso, and I'll binge for that. But I don't go too fancy on the day to day at home. There's so many good coffee shops here nearby that like I frequent them more than anything else.
I've seen Al go through a lot of emotions over the last year and a half of knowing him. I have never seen him as offended as he was in that moment.
Just had to make sure,
Yeah,
I could also talk to Ryan about coffee for an hour.
Yeah, we could go off on
hours.
so many things.
But
oh my gosh.
we should also get back to Robin GL's second part of his question.
Right. Oh yeah, there was another part.
The fourth part.
Totally. Yeah, technically the fourth part. Completely different topic than coffee.
Me.
What is your dream role?
Oh. No. It's
We kind of covered this in the past too.
Yeah, well, because it's kind of the same answer, but it's a hybridized answer now, because the think Rody is a great example of like Rody's a dream role I didn't know I'd ever have or want. And I think it ties into what I originally said to you guys, a year ago, which is best part about this job is I never know what the next adventure could be. And, there are new characters and stories being told every day, and it's not really my job to like, it's different than in the on-camera world, like scripts go around town and like people kind of hear about stuff and find out about what they can audition for. Like for us, like we don't get to choose what we audition for. Like we get things sent to us, and if it gets sent to us, great. And then we have a time limit to send it in, and then you just kind of hope for the best and assume nothing. And um, but yeah, it's like I think more about like I want to work on certain types of projects. Like I would love to do more mocap stuff. I would love to work with certain directors. I mean, even on camera, I would love to work with like, people like Denny Villeneuve or, Paul Thomas Anderson. Um, I'd love to work with Kojima one day. There's stuff like that. But as far as like dream roles, it's kind of like I can't wait to see what the next thing is going to be.
That's awesome. McKenna.
Yes. Hi.
Ah.
A community question comes from Alec Bobco at albob875. He starts off, hi Ryan. First off, I just wanted to say great job voicing Rody. I loved that character in the movie. For my question, I'd like to ask you what your quirk would be if they existed in real life.
It's a great question.
Is a great question. I've had few answers that I've kind of been saying pretty consistently, and keep trying to think of other ones, but they keep being the ones that just feel right. And it's a selfish and a selfless answer. Selfish one is I would love to just like no brainer produce coffee like in my hand, like a cup, just like
Oh,
anytime.
I knew it.
generic.
Yeah,
You're
obviously.
so basic. You're so
So basic. So
Each finger
basic.
is like a different roast.
Yeah, exactly. But the
Oh, but is it the thing where you put a finger out and you pull your thumb
Yes.
to just like pour the coffee?
the real answer though, the one that I like, if I really could choose a power, it would be to make people more compassionate. It would be like to walk into a room of folks, snap my fingers, and everyone just become a little bit more civil. It's literally just like we don't need people to suddenly just like become best friends, but it's just that ability of like, hey, if you're arguing, how about it's a conversation now? Like, how about you can see eye to eye with each other and find a middle ground instead? I would love to have some kind of thing like that.
Boo! Get off the stage!
One thing that's been on my mind that I want to find some middle ground on,
Yeah.
Ryan, and this is just purely for my entertainment. It's a couple people on the panel here might
Oh, sure.
enjoy this as well. But we've been discussing a little thing, like say you have a piece of chicken breast and between.
God damn
Wait.
it.
Sorry. I just want to say this
I-
question is
I
also
was
part
gonna
of
ask him
the Penny
something ripping
Marbles.
off of that.
The Penny
Sorry.
Marbles at the Penny Marbles on Twitter. Hoodie Peaks also asks this question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Also
you
asked
can
the same
read
question?
out hoodies. Yeah. This is something we've been discussing in the past 12 hours, maybe.
Okay, so
Disgusting.
if you have a grilled chicken breast or a fried chicken breast, and you put that on a bun, is that a chicken sandwich or a chicken burger?
I guess there's a larger question. What do you consider, like, if you are given a chicken patty on a hamburger bun, do you call
Not
that a chicken
patty.
sandwich?
Not patty.
Oh, okay. So you're okay. So that's the difference then all around is you're
Like
considering
a fillet
patty.
of
So-
chicken.
You're
Apparently
considering patty, burger, and
outside-
chicken sandwich. Yeah. Well, so what I was gonna say is no matter what, I consider it all chicken sandwich because when I think burger, I think hamburger. Like that's just its own kind of thing. Even if you're using burger buns and a chicken patty, I'm still gonna call it a chicken sandwich.
The only reason they're
So,
burger buns
apparently-
is because they go on hamburger patties, and hamburger is the meat, not the whole thing.
Apparently,
Exactly.
outside
Oh my god.
outside of America, the general proponent is the bread that is used is what it is. So if you use bread slices, it's a sandwich. If you use a burger bun, it's a burger. If you use whatever, a bagel, it's now a bagel. It's not like a anything like
it's like we said before with the sub versus dub thing. Like, I'm just not the kind of guy to get into these arguments. This
Okay,
is
Ryan. Okay, wait.
No,
That question is
know.
boring. Hear me out. Here's another one. Ready? You bake two lasagnas side by side. They're the exact
Oh
same
my God.
lasagnas.
I don't have an oven.
Oh, wait, well, still, like, just imagine, just picture this, right?
The hot
You
day,
make two
you go on the
lasagnas side by side.
sidewalk, you make a lasagna on the sidewalk.
But like, they're both the
Hey,
same
you
thing.
make a
You stack one
lasagna.
on top of the other. You stack one on top of the other. How many lasagnas do you have? You have one, or do you still?
Oh,
have two?
I see what you're saying. I understand. So first of all, this is some kind of crazy trick question. Second of all, that's just way too much cheese and carbs either way.
But that's
So
not the point. Is it one?
Okay, the point is Ben has a community question that he needs to get out there.
So we have a great community
then
question
I actually do have to take off. I'm sorry too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
just wanted to
works.
get this last one out here.
This is the last one.
Real quick, this one comes from Speedstar1642. He just says, I wonder why Rody resonates so much with you while voicing him.
A lot of it I can't get into because of spoilers of the movie. But I will say that it's a lot of, if you do see the movie, there are a lot of things that they go into with his backstory and with just elements of his lifestyle that I've experienced in different ways, and just really resonated with me on a personal level. It's something that I totally will be happy to like get into eventually.
Maybe we'll have to
Just
do a
wanna-
spoiler cast.
Yeah, we could totally do a spoiler cast or something like
great.
that, because I want to give people time to see it while it's still out, and also not put this out there and have people catch it by accident and be like, no, because it really is it so much of it is what makes the movie, I think, hit really hard. So but yeah, just it's definitely a lot of personal stuff that when you see it, I'll get into it in time. Yeah.
To close out, is there anything you want to promote or anywhere where people can find you, anything like that you want to throw out there today?
I want to promote that I love all of you very much, and I am so proud of what you guys have done in this last year alone, and just, my gosh, like where you're gonna go, it's gonna be so there's so much ahead of you guys, like so much adventure. I'm so grateful you guys brought me on. You can find me on the Twitters and the Instagram and all that stuff. I'm Colt Levy. Just spelt. I don't know if my name is present on here, but it's that way. Ryan Colt on Instagram. And I literally, actually, I just announced right before the before I jumped on here. I did a little guest character in a new episode of a show called Remain.
Reman, I saw that. That's dope.
Yeah. So I'm only jumping in for this one episode, but a fun little character. And
You're also in Shin Megami Tensei 5,
Megami
right?
Tensei 5 is coming out very, very soon, in less than a week, and I play a very cool character in that, named Kansu, who's one of the Bethel class group, and won't get into, you'll see quite a bit of Kansu if you play, so it's really cool.
So dope.
And
Record of
there's a couple
Ragnarok,
Record of Ragnarok
Moriarty.
eventually. There's a bunch of stuff even coming out soon that I will get to talk about, but find me on the spaces and you'll see.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This has been another amazing episode. If you liked what you heard, if you liked what you watched, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, all that jazz. It'll be out on podcast services someday, maybe. I don't know. It depends on when I get it uploaded. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, and goodbye.